Hi Year 12s, Mr. Lim here again, and this is our last video on rate and yield optimization for catalysts. Okay, so let's have a look. So we're going to be learning about catalysts, how catalyst affects rate and yield, and some considerations when using catalysts. Okay. So, in the presence of catalyst will affect the rate, but not the yield of a chemical reaction, and optimization of the use of catalyst is important to make lots of money. Right, so catalysts are not consumed in the reaction and lower the activation energy of the reaction, so more particles have sufficient energy, and thus more particles can react and successful collisions occur more frequently, and thus they increase the rate of reaction when the reaction occurs. Okay, so remember, words that reflect something happening over time. Okay, so let's draw an activation energy. So just in case you've forgotten how this works, here is a endo or exothermic reaction. That's an exothermic reaction. What's over here? Enthalpy. What's over here? Nope. Yep, that's enthalpy. What's over here? Progress of reaction. Okay, what does a catalyst do? You need to know that it lowers the activation energy, so you can draw it like that or like that. Okay, so how do you also show that? You show, okay, well there's, oops, that's not the EA. This is the EA for the forward reaction. That's the EA without the catalyst. No cat. Okay, and so therefore, because it has a lower activation energy, you can then draw the other graph, which is the number of particles and the energy over here. And then you can draw this graph. Oh, that's a terrible graph. Remember, that one goes all the way to the corner, right? And then you can show activation energy without the catalyst here. EA no cat, and you can draw the activation energy over here with the cat, and so therefore more particles have sufficient energy to react compared to without that catalyst. All right, so you have to remember how to draw these two graphs because that's very reasonable that they would ask you to do that. Okay. Catalysts have no effect on the yield because because they increase the reverse rate of reaction as well as the forward rate of reaction equally. Okay, what's the reverse rate of reaction? This is it with the catalyst, EA of the reverse reaction, and this is it here for the without the catalyst, EA without the catalyst. So both of them require, both of the catalyst reduces both forward and reverse rates of reaction by lowering the activation energy of both the forward and reverse reaction. Okay. All right. Catalysts can be expensive, so steps should be taken to protect them from the harsh conditions of a reaction vessel. I don't know how, but you should try to at least. Catalyst should be in the form that increases the surface area, so a fine mesh or fine powder, that kind of stuff, to allow more of the reactants to come into contact with the catalyst. Replacing a catalyst can be difficult and costly, especially if the reaction is in a continuous reaction at a high temperature or high pressure. And in fact, high temperature and high pressure, doesn't even have to be that high. Even if it's at a moderate temperature, it's still super hard to stop those reactions. So they need to be long lasting, okay, because you can't just shut down the plant and replace the catalyst every week, because that would just be unsustainable. All right, the effects the reaction conditions can have on the catalyst can affect the conditions that the reaction occurs under. So the idea is that the catalyst is so important that if your reaction conditions of temperature and pressure break the catalyst, more often than not, you would prefer to save the catalyst than to have the high pressure and high temperature. So therefore, you might as well change the conditions to prolong the life of the catalyst. Okay, so catalysts are super important. Okay, some catalysts are organic and they're enzymes, and thus they are renewable resources and better for the planet. Plus, enzymes only work at biological conditions, so therefore they're usually at much lower temperatures, so it's cost a whole bunch less to maintain that reaction. But there are trade-offs on that. It goes a lot slower then as well. All right, so those are your considerations for catalysts. We'll be moving on to all of the specific reactions you need to know in the next couple of videos. Adios.